Welcome to the virtual orientation for Early Bird. So for the purposes of this video, we'll break up the virtual orientation into 5 sections, kind of chronologically, if I may. We'll talk about the pre-race, then swim, bike, run, and post-race. Pretty logical stuff, but let's start with the pre-race information. So the event is being held at Carleton University. We host out of the parking lot, pardon my cursor, right over here, parking lot P6, this one here. So if you know the area, there's Bronson Avenue. You can turn westbound, go all the way to the end, and that's the parking lot there. So my number one piece of advice for this race, if you want to make the day go a little smoother, is to pick up your race bib the day before the race. So the day before the race on Friday from 3 to 6 p.m., you can pick up your bib at this parking lot. This is where you'll also see the finish line, our transition zone, and everything else will be set up there. So it's a good chance for you to get kind of a lay of the land, meet our team, ask your questions, pick up your bib. It leads to a lot less stuff to do on race day. So that's my number one piece of advice. If you don't pick it up the day before, you can still pick it up on race day. We're usually open around 7 a.m. So you can stop by in the morning and grab it then. If your race isn't until later, you don't have to show up all the way at 7 a.m. We usually recommend showing up an hour before the race. So if you're racing at 8 or 9 or 10, knock an hour off of that. And that's what time we say you should get on site to give you time to park and whatnot and get your bib, get to the start line. So other few things to talk about within the pre-race section is that we do also offer an in-person orientation. So this video I think is pretty practical. It'll give you kind of a walkthrough of how the race is going to go. But if you wanted to, on the day before the race at 5 p.m., you can be on site again at the same parking lot here, and I'll physically walk you around the course. We'll kind of go for a little stroll and do the swim orientation. Then we'll walk over here and talk about the bike course, then talk about the run course. We'll kind of go through the flow of the day in person. So if you're more of if that's the kind of learning style that you have, you like to be walked around and see things in person, we offer that at 5 p.m. the day before the race. Excellent. So for parking, there's 2 parking structures that are very close. Carleton has parking lots all over the place. You can kind of see them peppered throughout the map here. But you cannot park in this parking lot here because that's where the race is going to be happening. We recommend parking in this one here. I believe it's P7. Lots of parking space there. Pretty easy. You can also park in this one here, P18. However, word of warning, it's a covered garage. So what we have happen every year is someone who gets to the garage and goes, oh yeah, I forgot, I got the bikes on the roof and whatnot. And they have to get turned around and go to the other parking lot. We want to avoid you going into the parking lot with a bike on the roof rack. Similarly, this one's just a little closer to the road, and you'll see all the other athletes here. It's definitely the more popular of the parking lots, and there's room here for everybody. As where if you come down and you do parking lot P18 here, you risk it being full and then being turned around. You might as well just go for the one that you know is going to be a guaranteed available option. Okay, so on top of that, the last thing I'll say on this page is that, again, you can show up an hour before your race on race day to make sure you get the parking figured out, get your bike set up, get your transition zone set up, get to the start line. Because when you do get to the transition zone and set up, you still have to walk about 600 meters to get to the swim course. So you got to budget in the time to walk over there. And lastly, subject to availability, we will have late registration. So unless we sell out ahead of time, which we are very likely to, there'll be bibs available on race day. Keep an eye on our social media and our website. If the race does sell out, we'll post it there. It's sold out the last couple of years in a row, so we expect it to sell out. But keep in mind that if someone does miss the opportunity to check out our website and our social media, and there may be some bibs available on race day. Okay, for the swim, one of the favorite swims of the year because it's in a pool. It's a controlled environment, very, very spectator friendly, really, really fun. So we will have some photographers there from finishers picks. So when you're on deck and getting out of the pool, smile for the camera. And the way this swim works is everyone lines up on deck, and we have some volunteers to help with this. We have little signs that say kind of what your anticipated swim time is, and you'll do your best to line up from fastest to slowest. No one knows their time exactly. It's a bit of a guesstimation, if I may, but it's a good chance to meet your neighbors and talk about where you might fit in. So if you're on deck and you're not sure if you're a 2-minute or a 2:15-minute per 100-meter swimmer, you can talk to the person beside you. Hey, who do you swim with? Or how much do you train? Or have you done this race before? And try and slot yourselves in somewhere accordingly. Again, not a perfect science, and it's going to happen that some people are, in the wrong spot. When the race starts, we'll send one person in the water every 5 to 10 seconds. So you'll go up the lane rope, down the lane rope, and once you get back, if you're doing a 100-meter swim, that's it. You'll hop out of the water and go onto the bike. If you're doing one of our 500-meter swim races, you'll go up and down under the lane rope, up and down lane 2, under the lane rope, up and down lane 3, 4, and 5 to get your 500-meter swim. So that's how that'll work. Last thing I'll mention on this page is that, again, to bring shoes to the swim. So when you're going from the transition zone, you're going to set up your bike and get everything ready. You're going to have to walk down to the pool. We recommend walking to the pool with shoes on because it's 600 meters long. When you get to the pool, you can drop your shoes outside of the pool. There's going to be a designated area outside in the grass, kind of on the curb there. If you've done the race before, you'll know it well. You'll put your shoes there so that when you finish your swim, you'll come out of the water, put your shoes on, and then run 600 meters to the T-zone. We do our best to sweep this course so that there's no debris on the road, but being that it is a road, there's always junk from cars and whatnot. So we say shoes, 1, will help you keep your feet safe. 2, it's a long enough course where it's faster just to put your shoes on and run properly than to be barefooted. So that's a little piece of advice there. For the bike course, same old, same old. This course has not changed for a number of years now. So when you get onto your bike, we'll use this map here, you'll go on to the Colonel By Drive right over here. You'll follow the bike start. There'll be a line on the road. That's your mount line. You'll hop on. You'll bike all the way to Clegg Street, come back, bike all the way to Hogsback, come back, and that's 10 kilometers. So you're either going to do 1, 2, or 3 loops depending on what course that you're doing. These maps are all available at somersault.ca, so I recommend that you go through them a little more in detail, make sure you're familiar with it, and then if this virtual orientation isn't quite enough, reach out to us anytime or come do the in-person orientation. It'll help a ton. So make sure you guys know how many loops you're doing, whether it's 1, 2, or 3. We'll have some volunteers at the mount dismount line kind of to help direct traffic and whatnot, because you can see there's kind of a lot of arrows going on. But it really helps if you know the number of loops, because every year we get a few people that kind of come flying down this hill and they go, how many loops do I do? And they're going 30, 40 kilometers an hour on a downhill. It's hard for us to know which race you're in, how many laps you have done, and how many more you have to do. So we do our best to educate as much as we can, but make sure you guys help yourselves by knowing how many loops you have to do. Now, if anyone's doing a swim cycle event, you'll come back, finish the swim portion, put your bike back in the T-zone, and you do have to run from the T-zone to the finish line. It's usually about 30, 40 meters, but the finish line will be your finish time. You can leave your helmet on and your shoes on if you want. Some people choose just to kind of get to the finish line and call it a day, but some people also choose to dismount the bike, rack it, helmet, shoes off, and get to the finish line with some shoes on. That way when they cross the finish line, they're ready just to enjoy the post-race. They can walk around with friends and whatnot and socialize. The choice is yours. And the run course, same course for the last couple of years. We'll have the transition zone there. You'll run all the way down to either the 2.5 kilometer turnaround or the 5 kilometer turnaround. So a point of note there, let's say you're doing a 5 kilometer run. You will run from the transition zone all the way to where it says 5 kilometer turnaround. We had 1 or 2 people last year who got to the 2.5 and says, oh yeah, I'll run 2.5 out, 2.5 back. But you only turn around here if you're doing a 2.5 kilometer run. Otherwise, you run all the way to Hogsback if you're doing a 5 kilometer run. If for some reason you're one of those people and you do make a mistake and you turn back too early, keep going all the way to the finish line and just do a second loop. The total distance will be the same, and it'll allow you to kind of keep the data accurate. We'll have a water station here on course. We'll have water and F2C, so you can grab a splash of water or sports drink there to stay fueled. And otherwise, just make sure you know your turn points. That's the last thing that I always want to point out, just to make sure it's extra clear. And post-race. So once the race is finished, the fun kind of begins. You can socialize with your competitors, talk about how the day went, see how the results turned out. The fun thing about this event is that the person that crosses the finish line first is not necessarily the winner. Because you can imagine that the person that crossed the finish line first, there might be someone who started 5 minutes after them, because it's one swimmer at a time. So your time doesn't start till you'll enter the water. And if you started 5 minutes behind, but then you only finished, call it 1 minute behind the winner, you quote unquote beat them by 4 minutes. So the finished results are not finalized until everyone's crossed the finish line. So it creates a bit of a fun dynamic in that race. So keep an eye on the results. But we'll have some Libra beer at the finish line, some non-alcoholic beer from PEI. We'll have lots of snacks and food. We usually have post-race massage. We'll do a little award ceremony once most of the field is finished. This race in particular, we have to wait quite a while to do the awards because, like I said, we don't know who the winner is until most of the field is finished. And then after the race, you can go online to photos.somersault.ca. Pardon me. So the website again is photos.somersault.ca to see your post-race photos, all downloadable for free thanks to our sponsors. And then you can go to sportstats.ca to see the official results. So the photos will take a day or two to get online. We have to kind of filter and tag all the photos. Results are usually pretty instant, and if you see any issues with your results, just email corrections@sportstats.ca and they'll button up any mistakes. Sometimes we get things with the wrong time, wrong gender, or wrong age, and that's okay. It's a quick, easy fix as long as you send an email to corrections@sportstats.ca. And that's it for now. If you have any questions, email me. It's adam@somersault.ca. I look forward to seeing you at the start line, and if not, maybe at the in-person orientation the day before the race at 5 p.m. Thanks so much.